Hi, I'm Lisa Wetzel, and we're doing a short video, and Craig's asking the questions.
How do I understand what causes fear?
Fear is the perpetuity of anger and involvement from past relations. Okay, that was kind of in depth. Okay, so okay, we need to analyze that. Okay, so what we're saying to you is that the analysis of behavior from another that has caused fear or anxiety within you perpetrates. Not real sure what the definition of perpetrate means, because that's not a word I use. But what it's saying to me, what my understanding is that it builds and builds and builds. And where we're going with this is that if you don't gain an understanding of fear from your past or anger from your past, you will allow that to build upon itself. It'll just accumulate, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And where individuals have a tendency to live in fear, it's because of the illusions that they have created within their own mind by those experiences from the past. Okay, so they wanted me to explain that there's a difference in fear. Okay, so there's a fear, and it's called fight or flight. It's our natural instinct. If I was being attacked, that I would want to run. That's the survival fear, fight or. Now I can say fight or flight is what I'm trying to say. Fight or flight is the natural state to be in if you're fighting for your life. What we are talking about is fear from an emotional standpoint. And when we create fear as humans, what we are doing is creating an obstacle of emotions. And that's what I'm seeing, is that there was like one event that caused you fear. And I'm saying something as simple as when you were a child and you did something that your parent told you not to do, and you would get a spanking for it. That's a level of fear. So you have one level of fear. And then you got a little bit older. You turned into a teenager, and you were doing something in school that you weren't supposed to do, and the teacher scolded you, and then that made you fearful of ever doing it again. So then you have another layer of fear. And then you got a little older, and you did something, and somebody said something or did something that caused that knot in your stomach that gave that belief of, I better not ever do this again. Then there's another layer of fear. So these events that have happened just build and build and build and build until you have this conglomerate of fear. And what I'm seeing is it's like a stack of books that are just stacked on top of each other. And they're calling it's the books of fear. And what we want you to recognize is that most humans hold on to an emotion or an embedment of that first initial form of fear that was done to you. So it's starting out when you were just a child. I mean, even a baby, when you would do something and you would get scolded, and that, it's being afraid of your parents. It's that simple. But what happens is that the majority of people never let that memory go. That there's always some form of that initial fear embedded within the body. And it's embedded so deep that sometimes you have to dig down far enough to actually find it and remove it. Because what we're saying to you is that the older the level of fear, the deeper it goes. The newer level of fear, okay, so this all makes sense. The newer level of fear is easier to remove because, remember the stack of books. So if you have 20 books and each one of them is a level of fear, the first one that you're going to be able to remove is the one on the top. because obviously, and I'm seeing Jenga is the game. You have to start, you can't pull it out from the middle and not have everything collapse. You don't want it to collapse. You want to take it from the top and you want to remove it and throw it away. And then you have to go to the next one and remove it and throw it away, and then the next one. And so what happens is that it's a process of removing the books to the point of getting to the very first book. And and again, now I'm seeing it like an onion, and we call it the blooming onion, Outback Steakhouse, a little advertisement. With the blooming onion, you start from the outside and you go to the core. It's the same thing. If you don't recognize that there have been pillars of fear that have been placed upon you, you will always have some form of fear. And where the fear resonates or ignites is when a typical situation that resonates with that memory occurs. Then all of a sudden you'll start having some form of fear. So let's say that when you were a child and you ate cake. Very simple analogy. You ate cake and you weren't supposed to eat the cake. Mom comes in and she slaps you. I don't know. I mean, something that causes you to, I'm not ever going to do that again, kind of thing. If you relived something similar to that later in your life, that memory is always going to be there, and there'll always be something that triggers that memory to come back up to the surface. And so when it does, there's that form of fear. So what we want you to do, now that you have analyzed the books of fear and the analogy of how fear can stack one on top of another, you begin to recognize that you can eliminate the layers of fear if you choose to do so. What we want for you to do is to be a human that can live fear-free, that there is nothing that affects you or haunts you in a way that it can cause torment to you. And torment's kind of a severe word, but I mean, just use torment as at the level that you can apply it. Basically, it's anything that's uncomfortable. So as you move forward and you begin to see that there are elements that cause you anguish, fear, begin to analyze what the trigger was. And as you begin to recognize the initial trigger, start digging deeper into why did that cause any type of fear in you? What was the reaction of fear? What was said? What was done? And how did that get into your system? How do you need to eliminate it? The very first thing that you need to do is to recognize it. And once you begin to recognize it, and you can recognize where it originated from, you can begin to let that go. And once you begin to let that go, you're going to find yourself living a fear-free life. And that's the process. And this is what we want you to know today. We want you to know that you are a simple being and that you can live a simple life. And what I'm seeing is that what the whole process is that the universe wants for us to understand is that we can live a very simple, emotional, free life. Living in peace, living in gratitude, understanding the love that's around us, and not having to have any of the negative feelings that causes us anxiousness or anxiety, fear, those types of emotions. Those emotions were actually created from humans, not from us. And what we would like for you to do is to be able to live free of those emotions and begin to be able to live purely in the peace that we have created. And this is what we want for you. Okay, so thank you for listening. You can follow me on my website at lisawetzel.com. Facebook is Lisa Wetzel, Akashic Records Consultant. Instagram is Akashic Records Lisa Wetzel, and YouTube is Akashic Records. I'm sorry, at Lisa Wetzel Akashic Records is YouTube. Okay, thank you.